Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Storytime with Grandma Kate. I had said in the previous video in this playlist that we were going to finish Junie B. Jones in this video, but I realized this is a super long book. So in this video, we're going to be reading chapter 7, 8, and 9. And then in the next one, we'll read 10, 11, and 12. So I hope you're still enjoying this funny little Thanksgiving story. Remember in chapter 6, Junie B. and May realized they brought the very same toy to school. So they got into a little tiff, I guess, and were pretending to fight and run around the room. And I think they got in trouble. So we're going to start off with chapter 7 called Stinky. Mr. Scary put our elephants on his desk. He did a sigh at May and me, and then he went to the board and he thought for a minute. Okay, you two, I'm going to put your friends on our thankful list, but I am not happy with the way you behaved just now, and we will definitely talk about this later, he said. Roger looked over at us. Welcome to the club, he said. Mr. Scary frowned at him, and then he added our elephants to the list on the board. After he finished, he stood back and he read the list out loud. Do you remember what they were? 1, cranberry jelly in a can. 2, exploding biscuits. 3, Nipsey Doodles. 4, rainbow sprinkles. 5, toilet paper. 6, money. 7, Philip Johnny Bob. And 8, Police Sergeant Chuck. Well, he said, this list might not win us a pumpkin pie, but it certainly is unusual, isn't it? I smiled and nodded. Yes, I said. Plus, we don't even care about the pumpkin pie. Remember that? Pumpkin pie makes us vomit. Mr. Scary looked at me. Yes, I do remember that, Junie B, but thank you for mentioning it again, he said. Not a problem, I said. Just then, Lenny waved his hand real urgent. Ooh, here's a little pumpkin pie trick I learned last Thanksgiving, he said. I don't actually swallow the pie. Instead, I just keep it in my mouth until my grandma thinks I swallowed it, and then I run into the bathroom and I spit it in the sink. Mr. Scary closed his eyes. Good to know, Len, he said. Lucille jumped up and did a fluff. I have a pumpkin pie trick too, she said. First, I put the pie on my fork. Then I plop it into a rich, expensive napkin that is in my lap, and I wad it up. And then I slip into the kitchen, and I give it to our rich, expensive chef. She did a few more fluffs. After that, I don't know what happens to it, she said. Then she spun herself back into her chair. All of room 1 thought for a minute. Then other people started calling out pumpkin pie tricks too, and so Mr. Scary quick held up his hand. Stop, please, boys and girls. I get it that you don't like pumpkin pie, he said. It's just that I don't want anyone to be disappointed if we don't win the contest. All of us looked around at each other, and then Herbert raised his hand. But see, we think that you're the one who's disappointed, Mr. Scary, he said. May said that you hate our thankful list because we're not thankful for the right stuff. May popped up from her seat. I tried to get them to change it, Mr. Scary, she said. My mother, Mrs. Mary Murky, made us a brand new Thanksgiving list you would really like, but everyone wanted to stay with Nipsey Doodles and exploding biscuits. So it's their fault that we won't win any disgusting pie for you. I looked at her real angry. I would like to explode a biscuit on your head right now, I said. Then everyone laughed, except not May. Plus not Mr. Scary. He did a glare at me. Whoops, I said. That was a little too harsh. Mr. Scary turned back to the class. Boys and girls, please believe me. I will not be disappointed if we don't win the pumpkin pie, he said. I promise. He paused for a second. Then his face got a little smile on it, and he made his voice real secret. Shh, don't tell anyone, okay? But I don't like pumpkin pie either, he said. Room 1 got very quiet. And then, all of us started laughing at once. Because sometimes teachers are just like normal people. Almost. Mr. Scary looked at the clock. Okay, everyone, I think we have time for 2 more thankful items before lunch. Who would like to go next, he said. Shirley raised her hand. I would, she said. I have been waiting to show this all morning. Then she quick stood up and she reached into her thankful bag. And then she pulled out a box of sausages. She shouted, I am thankful for sausages. Mr. Scary raised his eyebrows. Sausages, Shirley? He asked. Really? Yes, said Shirley. Sausages are little sausage snacks for dogs. That's hard to say. You want to try that? It's really hard to say. Sausages are little sausage snacks for dogs. And last year, when my dog Stinky got sick, he wouldn't take his pills to get better. So my mother stuck his pills in sausages. And then Stinky ate them and he got better. And so sausages saved Stinky's life. That was the hardest paragraph I have ever read in my life. S's are hard for me to say sometimes. So that was super, 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 super hard. Oh, we made it. Whew. Whoa, said Herbert. Wow, said Lenny. That is a powerful sausage story, Shirley. I know it, she said. We are trying to get it made into a major motion picture starring Stinky. After that, she passed around a sausage snack. Plus, also, she passed around a picture of Stinky. Mr. Scary went to the board and he wrote number 9, sausages. Then he winked at Shirley and he added number 10, Stinky. Shirley beamed from ear to ear, and all of room 1 beamed too. A day was getting happier. If I were Shirley, I'd be happy for those sausages that helped save her little doggy Stinky. We're going to read chapter 8 called 3 Squeezes. Mr. Scary checked the clock again. Okay, it's time for our last thankful item before lunch, he said. Shirley's sausage story was so nice. I'm wondering if anyone else has an animal you're thankful for. Sheldon's hand shot up like a rocket. I do, Mr. Scary. I have 3 animals I'm thankful for. And guess what? I got my picture taken with every single one of them. He quickly leaned down to his thankful bag and he started searching through it. He stopped to glance up. And here's the part you're really going to love, he said. All of the animals are Thanksgiving animals, Mr. Scary. All of them are turkeys. Mr. Scary looked happy at that news. Turkeys, he said. No kidding, Sheldon, that's great. I know it, said Sheldon. My Uncle Vern has turkeys at his house, and we took pictures of me with the 3 that I love the most. Mr. Scary smiled real big. That is perfect, Sheldon. I didn't even know your Uncle Vern was a turkey farmer. Sheldon looked puzzled. He's not, he said. Uncle Vern and Aunt Bunny live out in the woods. He did a pause. They moved out there to get away from the law, he said. Mr. Scary cleared his throat, real nervous. Well, that's fine, Sheldon, but this story's really none of our business, he said. Well, I think it's our business, shouted a loud voice. I think he should be arrested. All of our eyes turned to May. Her face looked shocked at us. Don't look at me. I didn't say that. It was him, she said. She quick pointed to Police Sergeant Chuck on Mr. Scary's desk. Mr. Scary rolled his eyes, very annoyed. He told May to button her lips. She started to sputter. But. Mr. Scary snapped his fingers at her, and then he turned back to Sheldon. Please forgive that interruption, Sheldon, he said. I really can't wait to see your turkey pictures. I've seen wild turkeys when I've been hiking, but I've never been close enough to get a picture. Really? Said Sheldon. That's odd. It's easy to get turkey pictures at Uncle Vern's. He brings them right inside his camper. Mr. Scary's face went funny, but he didn't say any words. Then all of a sudden, Sheldon found the pictures he was looking for in his thankful bag, and his whole face lighted up. I found them. Here they are. Here are the pictures of me and my 3 favorite turkeys at Uncle Vern's, he said. He took them out and he put them in order. Number 1 is Gary Gobbles. Number 2 is Harry Gobbles. And number 3 is Larry Gobbles. He smiled real big at that one. Larry was from last year, he said. He is the turkey I love the most. He jumped up and held Larry's picture for all of us to see. Look, everyone. See him? See Larry? We leaned in closer, and all our faces went funny. Plus Mr. Scary's face went funny again, too. Oh, well, this isn't what we expected, Sheldon, he said. This isn't a picture of a wild turkey in the woods, is it? He did a hard swallow. That is a picture of a cooked turkey on your plate, and you're eating it. Sheldon nodded real happy. Yes, he said, I know. At Thanksgiving, we take pictures of the delicious turkeys we have loved and eaten. And this is Larry from last year. And there he is. You can see the reaction of all the kids going, you know, a lot of people post pictures of what they eat on social media. Have you ever seen that? Like they'll cook a dinner and then take a picture of their plate. I've never done that because I'm not really much of a cook. I like to bake, but I'm embarrassed by my cooking. So that's why I don't do it. Sheldon looked curious at our teacher. Don't you take pictures of your Thanksgiving dinners? He asked. Mr. Scary thought for a moment. Well, yeah, now that I think about it, we do, Sheldon. We do take pictures of our Thanksgiving meals, he said. He smiled at Larry. Sheldon smiled at Larry again. Larry was my favorite, he said. Look, see, Uncle Vern gave me the drumstick. In our family, it is an honor to get a Thanksgiving drumstick. Sheldon stood up straight and tall. The drumstick is what the king gets, he said real proud. I thought about that. I've never gotten a drumstick, I said, real disappointed. Me neither, said my friend Herbert. My mother says if she gives me the drumstick, I'll slop it all over the tablecloth. Sheldon beamed. My Uncle Vern didn't care if I slopped it, he said. He just told me, enjoy it, Sheldon. Sheldon grinned real big. And here's something else I love about Thanksgiving at Uncle Vern's, he said. Before we eat, we all hold hands around the table and we squeeze each other's hands 3 times. He joined his 2 hands together and he showed us how to squeeze. 1 squeeze, 2 squeezes, 3 squeezes, he said. 3 squeezes stand for 3 special words. He looked around the room. Can anyone guess what the 3 special words are? He asked. Room 1 thought and thought, but we could not come up with the 3 special words. Finally, Mr. Scary put his hand on Sheldon's shoulder and he smiled down at him. I love you, he said. Sheldon stood there for a second and then he smiled kind of shy. Well, I love you too, he said, but can you guess what the 3 squeezes stand for? I think Mr. Scary was thinking the 3 words were I love you. That's what I thought too, but I guess not. Mr. Scary stood there very frozen. He did not make any more guesses. And so finally Sheldon blurted out, Happy Turkey Day, he said. The 3 squeezes stand for Happy Turkey Day. And so that's how come we always name the turkeys, because they make our Thanksgiving Day happy and delicious. And we don't ever want to forget them. I thought that over in my head. Room 1 thought it over too. And then all at once we started to clap, because that is the nicest way to remember a turkey that we have ever heard of. Sheldon looked at his Thanksgiving pictures again. Good old Larry from last year, he said kind of quiet. Mr. Scary smiled, and then he walked to the board and he picked up his chalk and he wrote it on the board. Number 11, good old Larry from last year. Room 1 clapped some more. Good old Sheldon Potts. And then our last chapter in this video is chapter number 9, Socks and Other Surprises. And this is another journal entry from Junie from Wednesday. Dear first grade journal, today is the day for the Thanksgiving feast in room 1. All of the children had to dress up like pilgrims or Native Americans at the first Thanksgiving. And so that is how come I told Mother, do not make me a pilgrim costume. And I mean it. I could not have been louder, by the way. Only what do you know? Mother said she forgot I told her that. Plus also she gave the costume job to my grandma Helen Miller. And so, big surprise, this morning Helen brought the costume to my house. And oh no, it was a stupid pilgrim dress. I did a shriek at that thing. And then I ran down the hall and out the back door, and I hid behind the trash can next to the steps. But Mother found me speedy fast, and then me and her had a little tussle. And what do you know? Now I'm sitting in my chair at school, and I'm wearing a stupid pilgrim dress. This is the worstest day of my entire school career. Your friend, Junie B. I do not want to be a pilgrim, and I mean it. When I taught first grade, a lot of the kids that I taught really either wanted to be a pilgrim really bad or wanted to be a Native American really bad. And for probably the same reason that Junie B is. She didn't want to have to wear a hottish costume. I had a pilgrim dress and I had a Native American dress. And if I had to choose between the two, I'd want the Native American one too. It was more comfortable. I slumped in my seat real glum. And then bam, the morning got even worse on account of May came running into the room. And she was dressed like a Native American girl. And that is what I wanted to be. I slumped lower in my chair. May hurried down our row and she poked me in the arm. Hello, Junie Jones. Hello, she said. Look at the Thanksgiving costume my mother made for me. I am a Native American Indian girl. She poked me again. Look how great this costume is. Look at the fringe on the bottom of my dress. Look at the beads around the collar. Look at my cute moccasins. And look at the long braid in my hair. I turned my face away from her. Look at the back of my head, I said. May ran around in front of me. Guess what my name is, Junie Jones? My name is Chief May, chief of everybody, and I will be bossing around the Native Americans at the feast today. Plus, I will be bossing around the pilgrims, too. After that, she looked me over. Let's see. Looks like you are a little pilgrim girl, she said. A little pilgrim girl is not the chief of anyone, is she? A little pilgrim girl is just a girl. She did a smirk. What's your name, little pilgrim girl, she asked. Do you have a name? I made squinty eyes at her. My name is Get Out of My Face, Chief Nutball, I said back. I do not know where I came up with that great name. Those things just come to me. She's funny. I mean, it's kind of naughty, but it's still funny. May frowned her eyebrows. I think your name is Pilgrim Grouchy, she said. After that, she swung her long braid in my face. She sat down in her seat. Just then, Mr. Scary came hurrying into the room. He had been talking to someone in the hall. His face beamed at our costumes. Boys and girls, you look so great in your Thanksgiving outfits, he said. We are going to have the best time with our families today. He held up one finger. And don't forget, today the office is going to announce who won the thankful contest. I did a loud groan. Great, I grouched. I'm already hottish and sweatish. Now all I need to do is win a pie and vomit. Suddenly, a loud noise interrupted my grouching. Tap, 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 tap. It was coming from the hall outside room 1. All of the children ran to see. And whoa, it was Principal. And he was hammering a nail in our door with his shoe. All of our mouths came open at that sight. I cannot believe my eyeballs, I said, real shocked. If I nailed a hole in our door, I would get sent to the principal's office. I looked at Mr. Scary. You know that's true, by the way, I said. I have been sent for way less than that. Sheldon raised his hand. How come you're doing that, Principal? He asked. How come you're nailing a hole in our door with your shoe? Just then his eyes glanced down at Principal's sock foot. Whoa, what kind of socks do you have on there? He asked, real curious. Sheldon quick got on his hands and knees and looked closer. He raised his eyebrows. Are those knee socks? He said. My grandpa Ned Potts wears knee socks. I got on my hands and knees too. My grandpa Frank Miller wears those kind of socks too, I said. We call them old man socks. Principal's face looked embarrassed at us. He said to please get away from his sock foot, and then he picked up his shoe and put it back on. After that, he did a deep breath to settle down. And then surprise, surprise, he reached into his pocket and he pulled out a giant blue ribbon and he hung it right on the door nail. Oh, I should show you the picture. Sorry. There he is. There's Principal. He's got a blue ribbon in his hand. Oh, there's Junie B. Dressed like a little pilgrim girl. So they won. Congratulations to you, room 1, he said, very happy. You won first place in this year's thankful contest. All of room 1 stood very still for a minute. That is called we were in a daze, I believe. And then, boom, we jumped and clapped and danced and yelled. We won, we won, we won, we yelled. Mr. Scary's face looked thrilled at us. I knew you could do it, he said. I told you you were a special group. Me and Herbert linked our arms together and we skipped in a happy circle. We won Junie B, hollered Herb. We won a giant first place blue ribbon and a great big pumpkin pie. And then screech, all of our skipping came to a stop because we remembered the vomit part, that's why. Herb and I looked sickish at each other, and all the other children looked sickish too. Oh no, we said, pumpkin pie. We have to eat pumpkin pie. Then, good old Lenny came to the rescue because he had already had the whole thing figured out. Don't worry, everyone, I've got a plan, he said, very excited. And he pointed to the back of the room. We've got a giant cleanup sink back there, remember, he said. All of us looked at the cleanup sink. So, he said, Lenny grinned. So if anyone makes us eat pie, we'll just put it in our mouths, then run to the cleanup sink and quick spit it out, he said. Then all of room 1 thought for a second. Whew, a big breath of relief whooshed right out of us, because spitting pie in the cleanup sink is a genius, of course. We started smiling again. Hooray for Lenny. That guy thinks of everything. That's gross. I wouldn't let my kids do that. Blech. But anyway. All right, we're going to finish this book. Like I said, we're going to finish Junie B. Jones with our next video. If you want to take a break, please do, and join us when you're ready. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.